And every time I hear it, I go, oh, really, I need to update that. I will add one little kicker for you. I'm also a married celebrant now. So I'm a civil celebrant, so if you need me to jet over from the metropolis, just get in touch. No, be quiet. Faccia, faccia. Ci siamo? Sì, ci siamo. Non toccare I just joined with the media in recognising and honouring the traditional custodians. Here, particularly the Wātiti people of the Noongar language group. I come from Wurundjeri, Wairanga country, all unceded lands, and I'm always very happy to have the opportunity to do these things in this place. Okay, we're going to start. All right, this is what I've titled. It sounds like a highfalutin title. But anyone who's reached 38 like I have has a lot. That's where you laugh. Starts to think about things. I started teaching Italian in 1992. Some of you weren't born yet. Fulvia, for instance, was a toddler at that. E la cosa più interessante è che dal 1992 io sul lavoro parlo italiano. Quindi in 2 secoli proprio. And this is quite an interesting thing that often makes me reflect. I've been lucky to be surrounded by, I've been lucky to be in a context where that's been possible. And I'd like to sort of give that as a bit of context. As you heard, I'm going in and out from the microphone. Can you hear me if I'm just speaking? Yeah. I started, the idea of teaching. This was inculcated into me by my mother. Okay, I have 3 younger brothers. My youngest brother's 15 years younger than me. When I left home, he was 2. We love each other a lot, but we never grew up together, really. He had very curly blonde hair when I left home. He's still got blonde hair. And my mother, when I used to come home from university, I'd spend time with my, particularly the 2 younger brothers. I treated the one just after me pretty badly. But the younger 2, I spent a lot of time with them. And it just happened that I naturally did educational things. I didn't force it on them, but I'd read with them. We'd play music, we'd build things. And my mother would say repeatedly, "You're a natural teacher. You've got to be a teacher. You're a natural teacher." So this became something that was embedded at every level in my brain, and it basically came to pass. And I've been a teacher, as I said, uninterrupted since 1992. In universities, it's interesting to teach languages, okay? Particularly because, and this isn't what I'm going to talk about now, it's just a little parenthesis for you, language teaching isn't valued. And how do we know this? Because most language teaching academics don't identify as language teachers. They say I'm a historian, I'm an anthropologist, I'm a linguist, I'm an applied linguist, I do social, whatever it is. It's very hard to get language academics in universities to say, I'm a language teacher. They'll first say, I'm something else. Something that maybe holds a bit more prestige. I'm very happy to say that I'm a language teacher because that's basically what I do. And it's basically what every colleague of mine in my school at the university does as well, even though they say they're a historian and applied linguist. And this is a little interesting thing to think about, because what it means is, the parenthesis is still open, I'm about to close it. What it means for you and your students, it's hard to see champions because they don't identify. We don't have a chief linguist. We have a chief mathematician. We don't have a chief linguist. We don't have a chief languages person. But I'm a language teacher, and now I'm going to talk to you about myself for almost an hour. Done that. Now, we're going to do something a bit different to begin with. I'm going to ask you to turn your phone off or onto silent and put it away from your hand, into your bag, on the floor, away from you. You cannot be touching your phone. I don't need to look at it. I also want everything out of your hands. So I want everything out of your hands. Sorry to do this to you. Everything, Colleen, everything off your desk. Nina, everything. Yeah. Close your table if you've got your table open. Okay, a little moment of meta reflection here. This is what you do to your students. This is what you do to your students. Just feel what it feels like. Feel what it feels like. Okay, once we're ready, everything out of your hands, tables closed. Okay, we're nearly there. I'm going to wait for everyone to be in the situation that I've asked. Okay, nearly there. Ci siamo? Ok, bene. Ora, mettetevi comodi. Trovate una posizione comoda. Allora, uso questo per farvi vedere come dovete essere. Allora, immaginate che io sono seduto così, quindi piedi tutte e due per terra, usi console, tutte e due per terra. Se volete, potete anche togliere le scarpe. No, sul serio, se volete, perché se è facile, per me sarebbe facile, però, ok, quindi tutte e due voglio. Allora, in realtà voglio l'angolo 90 gradi. Giù. Ok, 90 gradi. Bene? 90 gradi. Palmi sulle ginocchia. Ok. Spalle indietro, ma non forzate così. Spalle in modo gentilmente indietro. Aprite qua, aprite il petto. E aprite il petto.
Che faccio questo con i miei studenti?
Non parlare. Non ho detto di parlare. Ok, così. Allora, chiudete gli occhi. Dolcemente, chiudete gli occhi. Close your eyes. rilassati. Concentrate on the furthest away sound you can hear. Ok. Ora passiamo al respiro. I'm going to go to the breath now. I want you to breathe in through your nose, hold, and then breathe out through your nose, or if it's not comfortable, you can breathe out through your mouth. I want it to be soft and gentle breathing. I'm going to count for you. I want you to breathe in for 4, we'll hold for 2, and I want you to breathe out for 4. Ready? Inspirate. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. And expirate. 2, 3, 4. And inspirate. 1, 2, 3. Expirate. 1, 2, 3, 4. Continue like that. Now I want you to form an intention for today in your mind. To think about the one thing that you want out of today. It doesn't have to be highfalutin, it doesn't have to be academic. Now listen for that far away sound again. One more breath in. 2, 4. Hold. And out. 2, 3, 4. Gently flutter your eyes open. Turn to the person next to you and say something nice.
Have a good day.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I promised you in my abstract that I was going to give you the ingredients for success. I'm going to give you 10 ingredients, okay? They come from this 3-decade experience of mine. We started with breathing because we can control breathing, okay? Obviously we naturally breathe and a lot of the time we don't control our breathing, otherwise we die. That sort of just happens naturally. But we can take control of it, okay? And what that does is it triggers all sorts of changes, both in your body but also in your brain. And what we're seeing in current neuroscience is the physiological effects of controlling these systems which typically run autonomically or automatically. You can use this tool to control yourself. Now, that was slightly time consuming, we used a few minutes, but one thing you can do, and I don't know if you've heard of this, if you feel under pressure, overwhelmed, I've got to go into year 9, I haven't even I saw the principal and they didn't like my shoes, whatever it is. You can use a quick breathing technique to reset your system. And it's 2 quick breaths out and 1 slow breath in. That will immediately reset your system. Now, why is this important? This is important because when we're under stress, when we're anxious, when we're upset, what happens is the fight, flight, freeze response kicks in immediately. And you know what that does. Now, how do you know what that does? Because it happens to your students all the time. Okay? When you turn to that student in year 8 and say, "È il tuo animale domestico?" Your pet? And they go, "Oh no, she's talking to me, she's asking me." This is fight, flight, freeze, okay? But you as teachers experience it all the time as well, yeah? But what I'm saying to you is look at how your students respond and see how this actually works. Because it's working in you as well. It's working in you. What happens is cortisol floods the brain, and what that does is shuts off or sort of dampens all of our higher cognitive abilities. It actually blocks learning. You can't learn under those circumstances. You can't reason. You can't make any sense. So it really needs to be under control. So if you're under stress in your class, and if your students are stressed in the class, nothing's really happening. No one's really getting anywhere. Yeah. So this is my first suggestion to you. Find a somatic physical practice. A somatic practice is one where there's sort of an inward gaze, if you like. You're sort of looking at yourself. Now, it doesn't have to be New Age. Okay? It doesn't have to be crystals and incense and whatever. Running can be somatic. You've got to make it that way a little bit. You've got to bring your mind to it. But you can get, I don't know, does anyone run here? Yeah. Run away. It's that moment that you're running and suddenly you're just in the flow. All the systems are harmonized. Yeah. That's the feeling that you can get from a physical somatic practice. Other typical ones, obviously yoga, yeah. But it also relies on you. You've got to bring your attention to what you're doing. Pilates, I do hot Pilates. That can be somatic for me. I ride my bike to work, and it's really interesting. I hadn't reflected on it. I've always said to people, it's almost like going through a portal for me, my bike ride. It takes me from home. I ride 10K, so it's like 25 minutes or whatever. But it's like I shift. I leave home, I'm on my bike, get to work. I leave work, on my bike, get home. I've actually realised I've got the internal thing going on, like it's resetting me in that sense. I also sing on my bike. I think that has something to do. Yeah. So that's the first one. Find a somatic physical practice that works for you. Yeah? It's got to be something that you can commit to and that you can do regularly. It doesn't have to be much. It doesn't have to be like 4 hours of classes every day. Just something. It can be a walk in the morning. Whatever, it can be, I don't know, when you're hanging out washing, you can do a few squats and turn your thinking inwards as you do it. Yeah? Just anything that gets you sort of into your body in a way. Does that make sense? Yes. It's all about you. Okay, the theme of the conference. what is it again? Something resources. Oh, dynamic and resources. Okay, you don't need anything. You don't need a textbook. You don't need worksheets. Maybe you need a pen. Maybe not. The best thing in that classroom is you. You're the best resource. To be the best resource, obviously, you have to resource yourself. Okay? Oh, what I didn't say before about the somatic practice is what my colleague said about me. My colleague said to me one day, I really think the yoga has made you less volatile. I used to be pretty fiery at the start of my sort of career, and I still can get yeah, my wife jokes about it all the time. She goes, "You're offended all the time." Things just offend me, and I don't really get head up anymore, but I used to. And it was before I really had integrated the sort of physical stuff into my life, you know. Now I'm pretty level most of the time. Which really wasn't the reason I did it. It wasn't the reason I did it. It was just a very good outcome. The other one was my students often say that sort of thing about me. That this is me in the classroom. I only really teach what I want to teach. Do you know what I mean? The way, obviously I've got a program, I'm not just teaching rubbish, you know, I know what I'm going, where I'm going, but what I teach is something that I'm really convinced about. The way I'm talking to you today, I'm convinced about this. I hope you can feel that I'm convinced about it, because otherwise why would I be talking about it? I know schools are challenging. I particularly understand that secondary programs are challenging, and particularly the senior secondary programs. But you have to find in that what's going to light your fire, what's going to float your boat. Yeah? It might take a bit of work. It might be a bit challenging, but you need to ask yourself these questions. This is how I've managed to stay happy teaching for over 30 years, because I say to myself, and I do it all the time. I go, hang on, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? You know, why am I in here? What am I trying to do? What am I trying to? You have to ask yourself those questions. There has to be something that drives you other than your paycheck, which might be good or may not be. You have to know what you already know, okay? One of the traps of being a teacher is thinking you know everything, okay? Thinking you know. One of the best takedowns for me was early in my teaching. Had a beginner's class, it was an adult class, and we were doing the stupid frame question, come si chiama, and then they'd say something. Okay, I'm in a classroom, and they go, come si chiama the wall? Yeah. Come si chiama the door? Come si chiama the fuse box? WTF, the fuse box. And I've never had occasion to say fuse box. I've never been in a situation where someone had pointed to the fuse box and told me, who knows how to say fuse box? Who knows how to say fuse box? Okay, that's okay, now, what's really interesting, okay, that's a pretty common one. What actually also exists is a direct translation. But the more common one is quite okay, I'd never heard it. You know, what I should have done was case the joint to make sure there weren't things in there that I couldn't identify. But what happened was, I hesitated as the teacher. They'd invested in me, he's the all-knowing, all-seeing, and I immediately lost the class. Seriously, I immediately lost the class, and then had to work really hard to actually get the rhythm back. Now, if that happened to me now, I'd just say I don't know. I just say, no, no, so. I just do something. But I was in that mindset. I'm the teacher. No, you've got to know what you know, and more importantly, you've got to know what you don't know. Find out. If you don't know something, find it out. There's so much resource out there. Yeah, find out. And I don't mean just stupid little, a word here, a word there. Make sure it's stuff that's useful to invest your time in, because we've only got the limited time that we've got. But the important thing is not to sort of get to figure it out. This is a really important thing, and this is what I do all the time with I tell them about my own. I tell them, whatever it might be. I'm always telling some anecdote about, when I was this and whatever. So, I think that's a really important thing, because teaching isn't just telling. It's not just standing there telling them something. You know that education means leading out. Yeah? So, that's what we're trying to do. We're actually trying to lead. You've had an experience with a language or multiple languages. Share the experience with the students. Oh, let's do a little bit. Okay. Oh, no, what's happening here? Right. We'll just do this. Oh, no, you don't want to go on here. You don't want to go on here. Oh, I was looking at the right. You're not connected. I can see I'm not connected. Okay. I want you to look at these English sentences on the left. Okay, look at the first one. She decided that tomorrow was going to be amazing, even though it probably wouldn't go to plan. Who can explain the grammar of that sentence? It's a nightmare. Is it grammatical?
Yes.
It's grammatical. Who can explain the grammar of that sentence? Anyone? There's some conditional. Okay, we can identify the verb. Yeah.
There's no punctuation.
Well, that doesn't really matter. But yeah, there's no punctuation.
It's quite negative. She knows already this turn to go right.
Okay, we're talking about meaning. I want to hear about the grammar.
But why she has decided?
It's in past tense. Say again.
It's in past tense. Why she has decided? Because it is an action that is still to happen. So she is already deciding something.
Okay.
She has finished her decision.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Now, what I want you to think about is: does it help if we try and explain the grammar of this sentence? Okay. I'm going to return to this one. Is the sentence grammatical? Is the meaning clear? Okay. So hold this thought in your head. Hold this thought in your head. You don't know the grammar of that sentence. You couldn't explain the grammar of that sentence in a clear way if you were asked to do it. Okay? I want you to hold that thought in your head. Next one. If I'd known I wouldn't have gone. Who'd say that? If I'd known I wouldn't have gone. Yeah. I got closed O from Victoria. If I'd known I wouldn't have gone. Closed O from Victoria. Look at the second version. If I would have known, I wouldn't have gone. Who'd say that? You know who says it? No. Millions and billions of Americans. No? Okay, that's fine, we don't count that. But if you watch any American television show with this if clause, these are the tenses that you will see. You'll see a conditional in both sides. Okay? This is like the classic Italian era. Se io avrei saputo, io non sarei andato. Okay? Yeah, the classic. So it's also something that you can see in other languages. Now, we can understand this. And the fact that you don't recognise it, okay, is because if you start to take note of any American program, you'll start to hear this. The thing is, you've heard it all the time, but your brain's processed it as if it were the version that we've got. If I'd known, I wouldn't have thought. So the meaning again is clear, but can you see the grammar's different? Who'd say number 3? I shouldn't have drank so much. And now we go into the murky areas of prescriptive grammar. Okay? I'm fairly well educated. Yeah? This is what I say. This is what my whole family says. Yeah? Yeah, I should have done. We also say, oh, I should have rang you. Okay, this is described in linguistic work. It's a use variation. Okay? So what I want you to think about here is how not straightforward looking at this from a grammatical lens is. Yet, there are no comprehension difficulties here. Okay, there's no problem here with any of us understanding these sentences. Here are some truths from applied linguistics. As we said, we can speak a language grammatically without being able to explain the grammar. Okay, does that mean we haven't learnt that language? No, because we've all learnt it's typically the first language. We've all learned our first language, but we typically can't explain complex grammar. Some people don't have even the basic terms to be able to do that. Can they still speak whatever language it is? Yes, they can. This is a really difficult one to get your head around. Each of us has a different version of English in our head. It's sort of the same, but it's slightly different. Yet, there's no problem with intercomprehension. Yeah? Think of this in terms of trying to teach a language. Okay? What do we try and do? We try and reduce something to rules, easy rules that are digestible. Okay, we've got 7 people here. If I teach a rule, we're going to get 7 versions of it. Some are going to be similar to the rule that I thought I taught. Some of them are going to be slightly different. There's lots of variation, and it's not necessarily ungrammatical. The problem is I feel around with the stupid animation. So what I'm trying to do with this is get you to challenge your preconceptions. Okay? We tend to think things are the way we think they are, but actually they're not. So it's important actually to try and challenge the way you think. Break your stereotypes. Let's see if I can go back to this presentation. Okay. That sort of introspection, that sort of realization led me to what I'm calling my pedagogical crisis. Some of you might have heard me talk about this before, so I'll go pretty quickly. I'm a fairly accomplished grammarian. My background is actually theoretical linguistics. When I was 10, I asked for a dictionary for my birthday. I've always been a really nerdy sort of languagey type. I can explain pretty much a lot of Italian grammar to you if you want. Yeah? when in my downtime, I pick up Sediani and I just flip through that. Sediani wrote a very important Grammatica Italiana. I've got 4 copies of it. I've got them all around different places, so if I want to read about when do you use quale, you know, I just flick it open and read. So I've never had a problem thinking about teaching grammar. Sort of about, let's say, in the last 10 years, I just kept going, hang on, why aren't they learning what I'm teaching them? Like, why are they not learning this? Now, I'm working with students that have done Year 12 Italian. So they've got a good sort of grounding in Italian. I work in the #1 university, so we get the top students. We get kids that got 50 for Italian. Right? And 50 is the top mark you can get. Kids that get 50, yeah, yeah. So you would imagine that, you know, they have a bit of facility with the language. Passato venuto. Yeah, good night. Buonanotte. Now, you're all moaning and groaning about the passato venuto as well. I'm going to just say a little tiny thing. It's easier than the passato prossimo. But I'm not going to, we can talk outside about it. The other thing that I kept coming across was basic mistakes and what I call weird mistakes. So basic mistakes like wrong article. And not wrong article in cases that are a little bit like whatever, you know, not like, you know, pneumatico or something where there's a bit of leeway, but wrong article like, yeah, no, not la problema, like weird, yeah, something like that. Just wrong, where it should be pretty straightforward. Or il animo or something. You know, that sort of stuff like that, just basic. Or no agreements. You know, no agreements, like macchina rosso or whatever. And then weird mistakes. In vicino di. Who's ever heard of in vicino di? Like, it doesn't even exist in the language, but the number of times I would see it, in vicino di, in the vicinity, it could be a direct translation. Yeah. Then I was noticing this phenomenon. The good ones would come in and they'd be good and they'd go out good. The bad ones would come in and they'd go out bad. Was I doing anything in there? Did I actually do anything? Okay, ingredient 4. Look for the answers. So I went back to the literature. We've got about 80 years by now of language acquisition literature. Rigorous work. Not kooky, you know, rubbish. Actual rigorous work. What does it say? It actually says that. Actually says it. Most of what we think we're doing, that's not what's happening. You think you're teaching X, they're understanding Y, Z. A quote from the middle of the 20th century: can't really teach language, we can only create conditions in which it will develop spontaneously in the mind in its own way. Okay, this is an interesting concept to think about. What are those conditions? What are the conditions? Now, one thing we do know is second language acquisition. Initially, they thought it was some different process. It's actually similar to first language acquisition. And that's becoming increasingly more clear with more work being done in that direction. If that's the case, think about how first languages come about. It's not because you conjugate verbs with your 2-day-old baby. Hello, baby. I eat, you eat. No, it's because that baby's bombarded with language, even before they get out. I mean, there's evidence for babies' sensitivity to languages that they've heard in the womb. So they're already, that thing's already hearing language before it's even not a thing anymore. So we have to find the right type of language in the right type of conditions. And Stephen Krashen says, you won't be able to stop learning. It'll just happen. It'll just be happening. So, look for the answers. Now what is going on? Okay, we're going over this. This is a lesson in itself to not fiddle with the PowerPoint while you're listening to other media. This is my solution. I've got students for 12 weeks for 4 hours a week. Okay. Basically, I'm using all the time I can to push language into them. Basically, it's language. Now, I'm not teaching them, there's no explicit grammar anymore. Rusted on grammarian doesn't teach any grammar at all. Not at all. I do a lot of comprehensible input by using stories, and then I put the students in situations where they sort of have to use or hear language. This came about because really I've always done this. I've always thought about what I'm doing and then changed what I'm doing.
I wonder whether you actually can do that because you're at university level and you have kids coming, you know, putting in
No, because I've done it with the beginners as well.
Yeah, I do it from pre-primary up. Yeah, but pre-primary is I'm just wondering whether...
Secondary's harder, in the secondary context. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. So like if you actually, if I got like some kids in year 11, and they, for example, you know, they come from your center and quite weak.
Yeah.
If I just didn't actually teach any like revisit some of the grammar,
Sure.
would they actually pick it up? That
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you know, before I was yeah.
So I guess I guess.
I'm not talking about the complex.
Sure.
I'm talking the very basic. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got clear evidence of this because of the success of CRUL programs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with it.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. It actually it's not just you thinking about it. You've got to deal with a systemic situation that you're in.
Which has a marking of language accuracy.
That's okay. That's okay. You can deal with that. You've just got to sort of calibrate the assessment that you do so that it does that. You can do that. I would suggest to you that you are right. I'm in a unit. I've got control over my environment. I can do what I want. I can just say what I want, do what I want. So obviously, I've got control. University is much like primary, because in primary you've got a bit more leeway. You've got a bit more leeway. I know, but you've got a bit more leeway than say the senior secondary where there's this external. Now, what I would say to you is baby step. Just do one little thing. Try one little thing and see if it works. Just do half a lesson of story. I don't know how many lessons you've got. If you've got 2 lessons, if you've got one.
I agree with you. Using time in the classroom all the time.
Yeah.
But I wonder whether, you know, when you're talking about, you know, the WAATI, and they're getting it wrong, isn't it easier just to put it on the thing?
No, because they don't learn it. No, now, if they're exposed, they should, of course they should. If they're exposed, if we look at the research, this is the important concept to understand. The brain doesn't need our constant attention. We don't need to be there saying, brain, now learn avere essere. Okay? We don't need to say to the brain, go home and do these drills avere essere. Okay? The brain will do the work. We can only pick up, the brain does something like 121 million something or others a second, and we only see about 6,000. Those numbers are a bit wonky, but it's something like that. We don't need to be telling our brain, but we do need to feed something into the brain for it to work on. So if students see examples of Ed and SN in different texts over and over again, it will just start to happen. And I've absolutely seen this happen with a beginners group, and I also have 3, which is our post-intermediate. They've got pretty basic grammar. Their growth is exponential. The other thing that's happened with my shift is a complete drop in anxiety. Complete drop in anxiety. Because they know they're not going to be coming into the class and I'm going to be putting them on the spot. I'm not going to be asking them to conjugate this or what that word is. They're just coming in and getting bombarded with the language. So they feel better. No fight, flight, freeze reaction. A flow. We're in on a flow. We're flowing. Like the run, where everything's harmonised together.
Matthew, are your examples mainly verbal examples, or are they written examples as well? When you say you expose them to
they read.
a lot of reading.
They read. Yeah.
Do you think it's also the same thing that happens? I mean,
Sure.
I haven't learned in Italy, but
Yeah.
from what I understand, students learn grammar in the first couple of years of high school, but then in the older years, they don't learn grammar, they are exposed to literature, they're exposed to writing.
So Italians read far more than we do.
Yes.
And because absolutely. So this is one of Krashen's initial acquisition hypothesis has 5 components. He's added a 6th one called the reading hypothesis. It's pretty circular, but I'm so convinced by it. It's the more you read, the better you read. I mean, it sounds so circular, but the more you read, the better you read. The only way to learn how to read is to read. Yeah. Okay, we're up to 5. How many minutes have I got? 3. Okay, I've got 3 minutes and 42 seconds. Okay, I want to bring you to this notion as well, and I've sort of flagged this already. It's never just what you think you're doing. So you might think you're in there doing something, but something else is actually going on. This is an example from my teaching. As I said, I've got a pretty strong linguistic background. I've been interested for a number of years in linguaggio alto, so inclusive or broad language, as Berger describes it. The reason for that is look who I'm usually with. My classes are like this. Professional learning for language teachers is like this. My family's like this. It's me and one cat, and then every beautiful women all around me, and women cats. So it seems preposterous to me that I would be going buongiorno a tutti, buongiorno ragazzi, ciao ragazzi. Why would I be saying that? So I had this, I've been very interested in this, and I actually teach this from a linguistic point of view. So we look at the nouns, we look at what you have to do to all of that. So I'm busy teaching this, and I come out of this class, and a student comes towards me, and he goes to me, I'll just talk to you. Yeah, sure. That's the first time I felt seen and safe in a class ever. I'm like, oh my God. I was really actually overwhelmed because, like a dumb linguist, I hadn't thought about what I was actually doing, what it actually means to those students. He said, I'm trans, and I haven't told anyone, I haven't, only my very close. I didn't know, I didn't even notice, I just thought, do you know what I mean? Like, completely taken by surprise. So this is an invitation to always think about what you're doing and what other effects it might be having. Because language teaching, there's always a political aspect to it. Even if we don't think there is, there always is. You've got to give yourself a break. Now, as I said, I'm 30 plus years into this. This is a recent tweet that I read. Just have a look what it says. Working less improves your output. Short breaks rewire problem solving. Pushing through blocks creates mistakes. This is the last one, and I really invite you to take that to heart. Stop confusing exhaustion with dedication. Really important concept to think about. I've done this in my work 3 years ago, before the pandemic actually. Before the pandemic I said, no, I'm not working after hours. They don't pay me enough. I'm not working in the evening, I'm not working on the weekend. Whatever it is, it can wait. It can wait till Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. 7, let it go. Let it go, let it go. It's hard, and this is ingredient 8. You've got to be comfortable with discomfort. We tend to rush away from discomfort. We tend to not, you've got to embrace it actually. You've got to embrace it in your practical work as a teacher. You've got to embrace it in making things better for yourself. And again, it's that full circle thing. In my physical practices that I do, I've done Bikram yoga for 12 years. Bikram yoga is in a room heated to 42 degrees. It's a 90-minute class. I've done it for 12 years, I know all the postures, I'm pretty flexible. Every class is a challenge. I'm saying that now after 12 years, every class is a challenge. But I sit in the discomfort comfortably. And that has taught me outside, and they say this as well, at the start I'm like really kooky going, they're kooks, that's crazy. They go, suffer in the room so that you don't suffer outside the room. And it's absolutely the case for me. So, really important ingredient. Get used to that discomfort. Down. It's the final countdown. This is really one that another one I really want to impress on you. You need to be a language user. Now, what do I mean by that? Some teachers, none here, of languages, the only time they really engage with the language is in front of a class. That's the only time they use the language. Outside the class, they don't particularly use it. I've known of contexts where the language teachers don't talk to each other in the language that they all teach. I really want to encourage you to be a language user. This is how you address any of those insecurities and sort of nervousness that you've got about your own language. If you can't do it with your colleagues, well, if your colleagues are terrible, sure. But find some good people. Find some good people. This could be your intention at this conference. Find a good person that I can meet and have a coffee with and talk Italian. Yeah? But try and understand that the students can see you outside the classroom. Okay? And that's why you can't be what you can't see is up there. If students don't see you, or someone or anyone using the language, they're not going to believe it's real. They're just going to think it's something in the classroom. They're not going to, even though you say, oh, it's in Italy and 61 million pasta and whatever, they're going to go, yeah, no, not doing that. She doesn't do it. Never seen her talking Italian outside. So just remember, you're not invisible when you're outside, but they can see you. They're watching. So if you've got colleagues, speak Italian to them. Even just nothing, but just do it. Same thing here. Sorry, I'm circling around back to my previous comment. You're the best resource. You've got to consume Italian. You've got to consume it however you want to, but no prescription. I like reading. I like listening to certain music. I like watching some shows. You know, I carve out a little bit of time to do it as well. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. Just fill in your cracks. Change your phone to Italian. Change your computer operating system to Italian. You're just getting this incidental language when you don't know. Yeah? Little bit, just fill up the cracks. Okay. Round to the last kooky bit, which is this neuroscience and manifesting. This is what I'm on at the moment. I'm reading this book, Mind Magic. I'm going to I'll send through with the slides a reference to this and a couple of, there are some good little bite-sized little online videos that you can watch. But what's really interesting is he builds a strong case for the fact that we can create our own, the future that we desire through visualization. Now, it sounds like magic, but what neuroscience is showing is that our brain responds strongly to visualizations in the same way that it responds to real data. Yeah? So imagine, you know, I went to the Daintree recently, okay? Just for a good weekend, went to the Daintree, beautiful, saw everything, saw the river, saw all of that. Imagine if I wanted to go to the Daintree and I'd never been there, okay? What this science is saying is if I visualize myself in the Daintree, if I imagine, you know, if I set my intention and get it embedded, there's ways to do it. This book will show you how to do it. Your brain starts to build the neural pathways as if you've done it. And it starts to get you to orient your activity to making that happen. Because our subconscious is busy doing stuff all the time. Okay? And this goes back to what I said before. You feed in the right language, the brain will start to do it. The brain, we don't need to tell it to, it will start to do it. The same sort of thing. You visualize it. You've got to go through this, so have a look at this. You will start naturally, unconsciously going towards it. This is what happened to me in my life. And I'm about to close. I had this very early contact with an Italian family that I call it un imprinting linguistico culturale. What happened in my life was I subconsciously, unconsciously, and consciously, whenever there was something Italian, I was drawn to it. But it's because I had this really early sort of experience that got things embedded in my head. And then it made it happen. So I know it sounds sort of a bit weird and whatever, but it's actually backed by science. Circling back around, it's all about you. Language teaching is about the whole you. I would argue that teaching language is probably different to a lot of other areas. Maybe the arts are a bit like language teaching, because it actually recruits your whole person. Your whole person. It's not just what you know, it's not just communicating something. You've got to model it, you've got to use it, you've got to use your voice, you've got to use your body, you've got to use your breath to calm down before you get in there. So, you use your brain. You need to create the flow with your brain, but also create the flow in your student's brain. You've got to harness your passion with your heart. You've got to live it, you've got to learn. And it's got to be you. You've got to be it, you've got to show it. and you've got to show how to become it. Because this is one of the keys of motivation. Students need to be able to project into the future themselves as an user. If they can't see it, they can't be it. You're the one they're looking at. Okay, we're at the end. They're my 10 ingredients. A dynamic and well-resourced classroom is a dynamic and well-resourced youth. There's my email.